Hey folks, I previously did a video where I talked about the ultimate off-camera flash that you could buy. Today I'm updating that because I'm in the process of upgrading my whole kit that I use for teaching photography workshops. It's a big job and I want to explain to you what I'm choosing and why. Now before we get into this folks, if you want to get up to date on all my future videos, jump on over to mattgranger.com, sign up to my mailing list and I'll send you out about a newsletter a week with lots of different information and sales. You can also check out my workshops page to see where I'm heading in the world and all of my downloadable courses. Okay folks, so I run photography workshops and tours all around the world, and that adds a whole layer of different equipment that I need on top of my standard kit that I use for my own shooting. If you want to see where my tours are, jump on over to the website, go to the workshops page, and you can see all of them listed out there. So when I'm teaching my photography workshops, say my Take Control of the Light workshop, it's all about getting people to understand the different variables of light and how to create the kind of images that they want, right? So I don't want them lost thinking about why isn't the gear working or why is there some incompatibility or any kind of glitches like that. I want them really focused in on what the light's doing and what they did to get that result so that they can replicate it when they get home. And you know, I've been teaching workshops around the world now for years and years, and gear gets damaged. It's just part of the business model, and you know, it needs to be replaced. But I'm at a point now, I've just done a big garage sale where I'm refreshing all of my stock to make sure for next year on, I've got a whole new, brand new kit of gear that is working and tested and just works flawlessly. So there's a couple of different elements to that, and I want to run you through all of it. So first off, flashes. Over the last 3 years, I must have owned 15 or 20 different kinds of flashes and literally over 100 flash units. I go through a lot of flashes and I'm always on the lookout for what are good options for my own work and for my students. Now, I looked around when it was time to upgrade. I looked at a lot of different options and I narrowed it down and was really interested in this guy. It's the Voking Speedlight VK750. You know, it's a Chinese-made flash. It's all manual. I don't say Chinese-made as any kind of disrespect. A lot of things are made in China and they're great quality, and I use a lot of Chinese products, but I was more saying that it's not expensive and it's not TTL. So I actually contacted Protog, a camera shop that I have a relationship with down in Melbourne, spoke to them about the flash and the features that it has. Seems like it would meet my needs. I bought one, I got it up, I got a model in, I tested it out, I compared it to my other flashes, I checked it with all the other gear I use. It works. I bought 20 more. Literally, I bought 20 more. So I now own 21 of these flashes. When I shared a photo of that, someone actually posted on social media, oh, well, we're not going to get an honest review from him now because no one's going to, you know, invest in 21 of something and then not say it's great. Well, I'm not selling these. I'm explaining to you why I chose it. And I chose it after buying one and making sure it worked. So just so you know. Okay, so I want to walk you through what I think are the must-have options on a flash when you're doing off-camera flash work. I teach all of my workshops, or nearly all of my workshops, in manual. Everybody gets it, even if you're not a manual shooter. The analogy I like to use is if you learn to drive a car in a new modern automatic transmission car, that's all you're ever going to be able to drive. But if you learn in some beat up old manual stick shift car that you need to, you know, tweak to get it to work, then you'll be able to drive anything from any manufacturer. That's the same approach with the flashes. So we're doing it all in manual. So let's take a little look around this guy and I'll explain the features of it that are what I look for this kind of work. Okay, first up, it must have manual power in at least full stop steps. If it gives you third of stop steps, then that's fantastic. Next up, it must have a slave mode. This one has a built-in slave. It actually does two different slave modes. Slave 1, which will just fire when it sees another flash. Slave 2, where it'll ignore the pre-flashes of TTL if you're mixing the two different systems and still go off in your exposure. That is really handy, and it means that I don't need quite as many triggers, because if someone goes outside to shoot, they only need a trigger on the camera, a trigger on one flash, and then that flash can trigger the other flashes that they're working for, their lighting setup. Then I do need it to have some kind of connection with the triggers. This has what they call a PC sync port. I'd also be happy with the 3.5-inch jack. It also has the head rotation. Now, head rotation is helpful not only if you have it on top of your camera and you want to bounce. Of course, if it's on a light stand, then you can move the light stand. Why that's helpful is to be able to make sure that the optical slave is facing the flash that's triggering it and still able to point in a different direction if needs be. That's why that's a must-have for me. Next up, I'm quite pedantic about only buying flashes that have a metal foot. That takes all of the pressure when they're on a light stand and they're wobbling around. If you get one with a plastic foot, that's the most likely part to break. And then it does have the diffuser and bounce card, which are nice to have, although in our workshops we go through much more advanced options on light modifying than that. And this isn't a big one for me, but for some people it will be. Being able to plug in an external power pack so you can have, 8 batteries running the power on this is also a nice thing to have. So bang for buck, for the kind of work that I'm doing at my workshops, hard to beat. One of these is like a quarter or a fifth the price of getting a TTL brand name flash. And for the workshop purposes, or for someone who shoots in manual like I do for off-camera flash, having 4 of these opens up a lot more creative possibilities than buying one TTL unit. So that's the flash. The next one is triggers. Now, I'm pretty heavily invested in Pocket Wizard system. I own, 15 or 16 plus 3s and some plus 2s. The reason I use these from the beginning is reliability and that they're rugged. So Pocket Wizards for me are the gold standard. I'm not sponsored by them. I just think they're fantastic products. They work 100% of the time. They have a range of 1,600 feet, not that you need it, and they're backwards compatible. So you could get, they used to be this style and they used to be all different colors, like a light blue. You could get one of them used from eBay and the newest one, and they'll still talk and they'll still have that 1,600 feet. Just make sure you get the right frequency, because that does vary by region, just by local laws. So, because I was expanding my kit, I was faced with the choice of, do I buy, say, 6 or 8 new Pocket Wizards to expand this collection, or since I started using all of this for workshops, there's a lot more players in the game now offering this kind of radio technology that doesn't need line of sight, that are quite reliable. And I could buy a whole set of like 25 of them, probably for not much more than getting 8 of these. So it was something that I was really considering. But I decided to go with the Pocket Wizards for a couple of reasons. One is they're tried and tested. Like I said, the last thing I want is a product that could become glitchy. I know these are rock solid. They've been making them since the 80s and they just work. And they have this newer one out. Well, it's not that new. I did a video on it years ago, called the Plus X. It's a simpler one, but it's the same body design as the Plus 3. It's just as sturdy, it has the same range, and they're cheaper. So I'm actually going to get 8 more of these. I've already bought 4, and I'm going to get another 4 or 6 of them to expand the collection out, because I know they're just absolutely rock solid. Now, the final thing, of course, I have all kinds of modifiers and stuff as well, but the other thing that I'm refreshing is light stands. Now, there's a lot of things to think about for light stands in terms of your compression ratio, price, weight. You want it to be light enough to take out, but not so light that it'll just blow over, and so on and so forth. But to be honest, for me, the main thing I'm looking for with light stands is that they are as light as possible while still being rugged enough, and that they'll fit into my hard case check-in luggage, which for a lot of people won't be a deciding criteria. But for me, when I'm taking potentially 15 or 20 of them to Europe to run a workshop, having them be, say, 800 grams instead of 1.5 kilos makes all the difference on my luggage allowances. So I haven't actually picked out a new model of those that I'm going to get, but it's going to be based largely around that. So let me know, are you shooting off-camera flash? What equipment are you using? Do you know of other triggers that are just as reliable? I've talked about this, about lenses and all kinds of different things. When you go from being 90% reliable to 99% reliable, you kind of double the price. And when you go from 99 to 99.9, you tend to double the price again. I think Pocket Wizards probably are overpriced given the variety of things in the market, but given my investment and wanting them to be 100% reliable, or as close to as possible, it's the right choice for me. The last thing I want is for a student to be almost getting a concept and then have some glitchy equipment not work and miss up their exposure and they don't understand why. So that's what I'm using. Pocket wizards you can buy all around the world. Light stands I'm sure you can buy all around the world. If you're interested in the Voking, then check it out at ProTog. Really great people to deal with. Like I said, I bought 21 of them already. And I hope you found that helpful. Share your thoughts. I'll see you soon.